added to the summer workshop schedule in the last column, next to Zoom link. The next column over says recording, so you can find it there, or you can check with your college and career navigator in there. They can share that with you. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. We'll continue to let people in. And Zoe and Jefferson, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We have a brief presentation about activities, and then we also will have plenty of time for Q&A. So if you all have any sort of outstanding questions after we go through the presentation, we are super happy to answer those as well. We want this to be really conversational. So to introduce myself, my name is Zoe Osborne. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an assistant director of admissions at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, just about a 2.5 hour drive north from all of you. I am the territory manager for Maryland and DC, so that means that I am one of the people who will read all of your applications if you end up applying to Penn, which I don't say to freak you out in any way, but rather to sort of humanize the process, put a face to the name. I have been working at Penn since I graduated from there in 2021, and I have been the territory manager for Montgomery County and the rest of Maryland for all 5 of those years. So I love Maryland. I love DC. I'm very, very proud of my territory, and I'll pass it over to Jeff.
Thank you very much, Zoe. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Snediger, if you ever want to look me up online. I am an assistant director of undergraduate admission here at Northwestern University. We are in Evanston, Illinois, just about 3 miles north of Chicago City proper, very close to the city, but we still have a beautiful traditional campus with big green spaces. I am one of the contacts for a lot of East Coast territories like Maryland, DC, Pennsylvania, New York, so I will be one of the people potentially reading your applications when you maybe send them over to Northwestern University. Oh, I'm also an alum. I mentioned this briefly earlier, but I know that people have come in. Graduated just last year from Northwestern School of Communication, so if you ever have any questions about Northwestern, college applications or college life in general, you can find my email online. I would love to continue the conversation with you after the presentation today. But if we want to go ahead and get started with the slideshow, Zoe, could you push me over to slide 2, please? All right, so jumping into extracurriculars, the big question is, okay, why do activities matter in the first place? Well, like this slide says, what matters to you, things that are important to you, really matter to us. They're important to us. Grades and classes and academics tell us what you have done academically within the school classroom environment, but they don't tell us exactly who you are and what you are passionate about. What are you doing when you have a few hours after school that, are truly yours to do with? Maybe you are on the soccer team. Maybe you make digital art. Maybe you work at a local coffee shop. Maybe you care for your siblings or somebody in your family. These experiences tell us so much about your interests, your passions, your priorities, and how you engage with your community outside of the classroom. At Northwestern, at Penn, and anywhere else you guys might apply, we are not admitting students just to fill our classroom seats. We want to build a collaborative community of roommates, of research partners, of performers, and mostly of friends and supportive collaborative peers. Next slide, please, Zoe. Awesome, thank you. So, of course, context is really key here. Context absolutely matters. Not every student has the same opportunity. Not every school has the same opportunity. Some of you listening today might be a part of big research labs, and some of you might take care of siblings every morning and night. As admissions officers, we completely understand that opportunities are very different for people. So instead of comparing students against each other on a grand scale, we're really looking at what did you do with the opportunities that were available to you. We aren't comparing you with the whole world. We want to know how you engage with the whole world. We want to know how you engage with the community, but we are focused on your individual context and your individual experience. We find some of this info by understanding your school. Your school will send us a school form. We will know what extracurriculars were perhaps offered to you, what a lot of students who are like you do in your community. But we also want you to tell us maybe in your application, your writing portions or the additional information section about your life. What do you get up to beyond just listing it in the application section? Tell us all about what a day looks like for you. So what we're hoping to learn from your activity section can be split up into three big questions. What are you interested in? Like, what are you passionate about? How do you spend your time outside of the classroom? When you aren't working on an assignment that was assigned to you, what do you do with your free time? How do you engage with other people? How do you interact with your peers and fellow citizens? How are you contributing to your communities? And what responsibilities have you taken on? I want to make clear that you don't need to be the president of every club that you are in. You don't need big titles. You don't need to be in big leadership positions. But we want to know that you can step up and take charge of a community or help a person out potentially when needed. Leadership can look very different for different students. It can mean being the president of an organization, being the president of your debate team, but it can also mean mentoring younger students. It can mean being a reliable worker at your coffee shop. It can mean starting a new hobby or a club at your school, even if it's really small. Or it could simply be being a teammate on a soccer team or any organization who is somebody who can be depended on. We are less interested in those big titles, and we are more interested in understanding the impacts you've made, whether they be big or small. All right, and what is an activity? Activities can be so much more than just clubs. They can be sports, they can be performance, it can be writing music or creating YouTube videos, working on personal coding projects, volunteering, learning another language in your free time, running a small business, mowing lawns. If you are consistently spending meaningful time outside of the classroom on anything at all, it probably belongs in your application. Because you might continue doing something like that here, at college. You might continue exploring that side of yourself. We want to know everything about you.
All right. So you also may be thinking about, how do I choose my activities? What activities look good to admissions officers? And I'm actually here to sort of debunk some of that, what looks good to admissions officers, because what looks good to us is what is important to you. And so there's no activities. The first thing I will say about choosing activities is that there's no one activity that you have to do. There's no one activity that will get you into college or will keep you out of college. We just want to be seeing that you are doing things consistently. So if you are on this call and you are a rising senior or a rising junior, maybe now is not the time to like choose a whole new activity. We want to see consistency. But if you are a rising sophomore and you're thinking about which activities to stick with from your freshman year and which ones to maybe change up for the rest of high school, like hopefully this is helpful to you. So we want you to sort of be asking yourself, what's important to me? How do I like to spend my time? Because ultimately this is your 4 years of high school and we want you to enjoy them. We don't want you to cater them to what you think we want to see. We want you to be doing things that you are genuinely passionate about. Then this is really important. What can I realistically manage in addition to all of my schoolwork and other responsibilities? We don't want you to be doing so many activities that your grades fall behind or that you aren't able to take that AP class that you wanted to take. We want you to be really balancing your time in a way that is healthy to you. We also want you to sleep. We want you to spend time with your family. We want you to spend time with your friends. We want you to be a high schooler. So think about how many activities you can take on, which ones you really want to prioritize using your time towards. Some students will have one activity that they spend a ton of time on. Personally, in high school, I was a dancer and I was in a few clubs and stuff through my high school, but outside of school, I was dancing 20 plus hours a week. So that was something that I was dedicating a lot of my time to. And that meant that I couldn't take on that many other activities. So think about how you can balance it out without completely overloading yourself, but also while pushing yourself to be your most engaged in your community that you can. And then you want to think about why you are choosing to engage in this program. If the answer to that question is to get into college, I want you to rethink that. I want you to rethink anything that you are doing because someone else told you to do it, or because you think you're supposed to, or because someone on TikTok said that that's how they got into Harvard. I want you to do activities because you enjoy them or because you're doing them to support yourself or your family. I totally know that there are things that you are doing that might not be because they are your greatest passion, but you are doing them to put some spending money in your pocket. You are doing them to take care of a sibling or to contribute to the bills for your family. That is also super important. So you can do things that support people who are not you as long as they're people that you care about. Do not do things to impress us. Whoever you are is already impressive enough. When you are presenting your activities, these are sort of some things that we want to know. And you don't have to like write these things down or anything because they are all on the Common Application, Coalition application, Questbridge application, UCLA application, whatever the system that you're using is. We will ask what the activity name is. Please spell it out for us. I do not know all of the acronyms at your specific high school, so it's really helpful if you spell them out for us a little bit. There are things that I've learned, like the student member of the board position in Maryland. I have learned that is what SMOB means, but it's really helpful to us if you spell them out. What your leadership positions are. I will show you an example of this in a couple slides, but tell us what your leadership position is, how long you've done this activity. That shows us that you have been consistent. The scope, is this at your high school? Is it regionally? Is it on the national level? Are you an Olympic athlete on the international level? Do you want to continue this in college? This is not like prescriptive of whether or not you will actually do this in college, but it just sort of gives us an idea of like, is this an area of interest that you might want to continue to pursue? Then we can maybe give you some examples of things that you could do. If you are admitted, we can put you on those listservs. How long you participate in this, both hours per week and weeks per year. And then sort of like any details about it. There is not a lot of space for you to do this write-up, so I want you to be concise, but I also want you to be descriptive and really show us what it is that you're doing day in and day out of these activities. This is a little bit repetitive, but basically clear, specific, use the space available. It's not that much, but it is helpful to us if you really flesh out what that activity is. Like, it's less helpful if you just say participated in the debate team. What does that actually look like to you? How are you actually spending your time on debate? Highlight the important pieces, paint a picture for us of what you're doing day in and day out. And then if you need to use the additional information section, you can. To me, the additional information section, which is not what this presentation is about, is really the lens through which I read your application and is most helpful when used to explain if there was a grade dip or if you dropped an extracurricular or any sort of context that has happened during your time in high school that will help us to formulate your application and to make a case for you. It's not really the place to put like 5 additional activities. Think about how you're utilizing those 10 activity slots on the activities page. But if there's context about your activities, those can definitely go in the additional information. We're going to do a really quick activity on the activities section. If any of you have been to the Penn info session, I apologize. This will be repetitive, but I also think it's helpful. So basically, this is what it looks like when Jeff or I opens up an application. We can see that the student is involved in the clarinet. They're playing that in the marching band. They're also in speech and debate. If you dig a little bit through their explanations, you can see that they're drum major and vice president. But this is the same exact student, and after seeing this presentation, I want this to be how you all present yourselves. Please do not copy and paste it unless we have predicted exactly what your high school activities are. Otherwise, that is plagiarism. And I, at least, if you apply to Penn, do this presentation all the time, so I'm gonna know. But basically, what I want you to take away is the formatting. So as you can see, the student has elevated their leadership positions to the top line here. I now immediately know that they're a drum major and vice president. Jeff and I are pretty good at our jobs, and we could have figured out these leadership roles from the previous slide, but this one just like makes our lives a lot easier. So please do it for us, if not for yourselves. You can also see that they've quantified their activities. We now know that they are in charge of an 80 plus member band and they're coaching 5 underclassmen in speech and debate. I was not in marching band at any school, let alone your specific high school. So it's really, really helpful for me if you spell out what you are doing day in and day out of these activities and really paint the picture for me of what these activities actually look like for you. It just gives me a lot more clarity on how you're spending your time. Overseeing 80 people is really impressive as an 18-year-old. So definitely like make sure to put those details in these descriptions. They also showcased their leadership progression. They started off as a section leader for the clarinet, then they were drum major assistant. Now they've worked their way up to drum major. So now we know that not only have they been in the marching band for all 4 years of high school, they've had a designated leadership role for 3 of those 4 years. So they've been really, really involved. And then the piece that was completely missing from the previous slide is their family responsibilities. We now know that the student spends 5 hours a week, every single week of the year, taking care of their sibling and their grandma and translating for their parents. And this is something that maybe one of your counselors or a teacher will know that you have all of this stuff going on at home if they know you really, really well. But I also never want you to assume that somebody else will tell me something about you. So don't bet on somebody telling me that you have these responsibilities via a rec letter. I want you to put it in writing somewhere on your application, because this is really important in terms of fleshing out what it is that you're doing after you get home from marching band, after you get home from speech and debate practice. And the fact that like you don't get to just go home and do your homework because you're going home and you're taking care of your sibling and you're taking care of your grandma and maybe you're translating a bill or something for your parents. So this is really, really helpful to see sort of who you are in your home community as well. And I will turn it back over to Jeff to talk about how we look at these activities.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe. So when we are evaluating your application, we are evaluating your extracurriculars. There's no like check boxes. There's no point system. I'm never saying, oh, this student did speech and debate +2. The big question for us when we read through everything is, will this student contribute positively to our campus community? And we are looking for students who have made an impact. Do they care deeply about others? Do they care deeply about an interest or something that they are passionate about? Have they grown over time? Are they capable of growth? I want to clarify that sometimes impact can be really big. Maybe you organized a big like cleanup in a nature area and you have tangible proof that you made an impact. But impact can also be a lot more personal. Maybe there was a fellow peer on a sports team that you were a part of and they were having trouble adjusting to this new responsibility and being a part of the team. And if you made them feel at home and brought them into the group, I want to hear that just as much as I want to hear about that nature cleanup thing. Northwestern also has like a few specifics. Campuses have different ideals, values. We want to get to know you best as possible. But one thing that I will point out is that we love interdisciplinary academics. We love interdisciplinary students. If you are an engineer and you want to go to the Northwestern McCormick School of Engineering, put in your extracurricular section that you were a part of the robotics team. That's awesome. There is a straight shot there. But also maybe you are a theater person and you have been in the ensemble and maybe in a lead role throughout a few years of your high school. Tell us that as well. It doesn't necessarily have, the same direct line of engineering to engineering, but you could make a case of, through these theater experiences and my passion through theater, I have learned how to become a better community member, a better team player, and a better presenter. And I am going to take those skills with me to my engineering career and Northwestern Engineering to collaborate with my teammates and present different proposals that we are creating in class and bring all of that into my career beyond school.
Yeah, I also can talk very briefly about the sort of pen examples. And I want to just clarify, like, there is no one activity that you have to do to be in Warren or to be in nursing or to be in Penn's engineering school or Northwestern's engineering school. Like, what I'm going to say is a little bit more broad. So basically, for Wharton, we are looking for leadership. We are looking for students who will make an impact through leadership in their business careers. And so we want to see that you've been a leader in high school, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you were class president or like captain of every sports team. Like maybe you are an assistant manager at your part-time job, or maybe you have leadership in your family. Like whatever leadership means to you, we want you to put that on the application. And then for our nursing school, we are also looking for students who are have really demonstrated a commitment to patient care and to caring for others. And like maybe that means that you're a hospital volunteer, but maybe that means that you are a summer camp counselor and you're like putting band-aids on little skin knees all day. So like however it is that you care for other people, for the nursing school, we really want to see that. And then I would also just like echo everything that Jeff has said about really diving into things that you want and not being afraid to be interdisciplinary, because we're not gonna like not admit you to engineering because you were in the art club. We want to see the totality of who you are and how you enjoy spending your time.
As for tips, everything that's written down here is fantastic. No right or wrong activity. Be thoughtful. It's okay to be lopsided or rounded. But the big one that I want to highlight is don't spread yourself too thin. Like Zoe and I have said previously in this presentation, don't just add on a club or an activity because you think that it will look good on a college application. But I also understand that a lot of you are ambitious, a lot of you enjoy being busy, you want to take on a ton of opportunities because you genuinely want to engage with them and learn from them. I was similar in high school. I see a lot of students do this at Northwestern as well, where they take on every club that comes across their desk and they take on every responsibility that comes across their desk. And all of a sudden, it is senior year and they have finals and they're like, I have 40 plus hours of organizations to do this week. If you are excited about clubs, I absolutely want you to explore them, learn from them, but also remember that your mental health is the most important thing in the world. What you are doing with your time and making sure that you are healthy and relaxed and getting the most out of what you are truly passionate about is more important than anything at all. And we will still see that in the extracurriculars that you choose and what you choose to tell us, even if you ultimately have to say, you know what, I'm not going to go for the secretary position of student government. Or you know what, this theater show looks really cool, but I'm just spread a little too thin. I'm not going to go for it this year. Completely understand. Prioritize yourself.
All right. That concludes our formal presentation, and we still have about half an hour. So we'd really love to hear from you. If you want to put your questions in the chat, I'm going to stop screen sharing, so that we can all see each other. If you want to turn your camera on, come off mute, raise your hand. This is really your time, and we want you to log off of this Zoom room today feeling like you have your questions answered about what colleges are looking for in the activities section. Of course, your guidance counselors and your teachers will be there for you as you actually go through the like filling out the activities section, but we want to make sure that you feel prepared for that today. Okay. What if you spend your time on a sport but won't pursue that in college? Is that frowned upon? Absolutely not. The question that we ask about like, do you want to continue this in college? I'm going to be honest, that isn't something that I like look at all that much. We have a whole essay about how you want to engage extracurricularly at Penn. And so it's totally fine if you want to change that up once you get to college. You do not have to do all the same activities that you did in high school. Basically, we're just looking for students who like enjoy being involved and have gotten involved in their high school community. And that sort of tells us that you're probably someone who's going to get involved in our community as well. So don't be afraid to put something on there that you don't think you want to do after high school. We just want to see that you're involved.
I want to add on to that a little bit as well, in that I went through a very similar experience. Throughout all 4 years of high school, I was super into rowing, and I was like the captain of my rowing team. And I knew coming to Northwestern, I don't want to do more rowing. I'm kind of done with this sport. But now that I'm on the other side of the table, it's often a good idea for students who have committed themselves a lot to one activity to perhaps be upfront and be like, this maybe isn't something that I want to continue doing strictly at college, but these are the lessons that I have learned from being in this leadership position or doing this sport for so long or being a part of this community. And I'm going to take that leadership, I'm going to take that discipline, I'm going to take that drive and community to what I end up doing in college, even if it's something that looks a little different. I also see another question here. My son is an active tutor. How do you evaluate work experiences? Do your schools value work experience? Is there something particular that he should emphasize in his application? That's a good question. I would treat work, especially if he's tutoring, similar like to how you would treat a club or an organization. What about tutoring students is fulfilling to your student, to your son? Are there leadership, is mentoring young students fulfilling for leadership? Is it fun to work with people and, help support the next generation? And if monetary reasons, financial reasons is a big reason why he does it, that is completely understandable as well. Just be upfront about that. Tell us what's the reason behind being a part of these organizations or this work experience.
Another question that I see is, are honor societies included? If you have a leadership position in your honor society, you can definitely, of course, put that. If you are just a member of the honor society, I would say that can go either in the activities section if it's something that you dedicate a lot of time to, or it can go under awards and honors. But if you're like president of National Honor Society or the Science Honor Society or something like that, definitely flesh out what you do in that president role. And if like this is also a space where it's really helpful to quantify that, because honor societies are really big at some schools and not so big at other schools. And if like NHS is the largest club at your high school and you're president of that, like that's great context for us to know about. We do have more questions in the chat, but I also saw Jalen that you came off mute if you have a
Oh
question.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask, how can students balance extracurricular activities and their work without getting overwhelmed?
Jeff, do you want to take this one? Do you want me to?
I can jump in. I would say, again, like I said with tips, is if you start to be overwhelmed, prioritize yourself. If you need to take some time off of an extracurricular, if you cannot take time off of work, and perhaps that even dips into academics or grades, talk to us about that in the additional information section. Talk to us about that in your writing portions. We, as highly selective universities, see burnout, see students getting overwhelmed, see students who have a lot on their plate all the time, and we want to know about your experience personally, and we want to support you and make your application as best as it can be. So I wouldn't worry too much if work is taking a lot of your time of like, I can't be as involved as other students in club organizations because I have to go work 20 hours a week at this, restaurant job. That is still as admirable and a big part of your life as anything else. We want to know about it, and we see that.
Well, thank you both very much. That's honestly been a question that's been on my mind ever since I joined this.
Yeah, I'm so
Um,
glad you asked it.
so
Thank you for asking. Work experience is really, really great and something that a lot of students are involved in. And I think like a lot of students don't know is supposed to go in the activities section. I certainly did not know that I was supposed to put my ice cream shop job on my application when I applied to college. But you definitely are. Another question that I got is, and it's a sort of narrow to like Penn summer programs, but I'm gonna sort of generalize this to how would you categorize like college summer programs that you do? And this one is about the Wharton Investment Challenge, and if you're a finalist. And first of all, I'll say you do not have to do a program that's associated with the school that you're applying to. You don't have to do a Northwestern summer program to get in there. You don't have to do a Wharton program to get into Penn. Um, but these can go basically if it's an activity that takes up a lot of your time and you want to talk to us about like what you do in that activity, what you do in that club, what you did in that month-long summer program, whatever it is. You can put that in the activity section. If you just want to sort of do a one-liner about like, I did this, I was a finalist in it, that can go in the honors and awards. So I would say like a good rule of thumb for anything like that is like if it's something that you dedicate enough of your time to that you can like write that little short paragraph about how you spend your time in that that can definitely go in the activities section. And otherwise if you just want us to know that you participated in that honors and awards is fine.
Well, when I sign up for my extracurriculars, I will be sure to keep that in mind.
Best of luck, Jalen.
Thank you.
I'll take a moment to respond to Kate's question here of what percentage of your decision is based on the extracurriculars. I would encourage students when they're putting together their application to not think about these buckets as two separate. When we are looking at an application, there are, I guess, four buckets that you can think of like there's academics, which is usually your transcript and perhaps a test like ACT or SAT. If you are choosing to send it in, Northwestern is test optional. Some schools are, some schools aren't. Letters of recommendation, extracurriculars, and then writing samples. But when I am reading an application, I am looking at all of these things truly at once. And I am putting together a big image in my head of who you are, looking at your transcript and looking at your extracurriculars and looking at the essays that you have chosen to send in to me. And perhaps looking at the glimpse if you have chosen to send in one of those little videos. And maybe looking at any additional information that you have attached, or if a letter of recommendation is coming from a unique person, like looking at that. You don't fill up like 25% of extracurricular and then it can't go any further. Students are varied, students are unique. Just put your best foot forward in every aspect as you can, and we will get a good impression of you.
Another one I see is do schools prefer continued activities over one-time projects? I would say overall, yes. We are looking for you to be consistent in your activities. That doesn't mean that you have to like stick with every single club that you joined freshman year of high school. We totally understand that like high school is a big time of like personal evolution and change, and maybe the things that you were interested in at 14 are not the things that you're interested in at 18. And so you don't have to stay in all of the same clubs all 4 years. Of course, you can pick up new things and you can drop things that are not serving you. But we do want to see that you are doing some things consistently because ultimately, being consistent in your activities is how you're going to build toward those leadership roles and is how you're going to make a tangible impact on your community. So I think about it more in that sense than in the sense of like, you must be in things for all 4 years of high school. It's more like you're not going to join the marching band and be drum major having never picked up the clarinet until senior year. So it's about how you build that impact on your community and it's about how you build those leadership roles. And we have found that that usually comes through consistency. If you've done like a one-time project, like a research program for a summer or something like that, or you have submitted to like a local newspaper and that's been published, like that, of course, can also go in the activity section. Just we are looking for there to be some consistent things that you've done all 4 years. It doesn't mean that they all have to be, but I'd steer you away from just doing 10 different things it was a club you went to one time. It was something you did for 1 week. Those can be things that you add in if they were significant to you, but should not be the bulk of your activities section.
I see an interesting question in the chat here from Mike that is, do letters of recommendation really matter because they should always say something positive? what makes a letter of recommendation stand out or be most useful for you? And this is a good question and something that we get a lot from counselors and from teachers as well, and from curious students, because for a lot of counselors and teachers and people who are writing letters of recommendation, almost all of their students are positive and special. I would say that the best letters of recommendation, and the vast majority I read, are positive, but the best ones that I see really highlight what is special about a student. It goes beyond they came to class consistently, they participated, and I think that they will do well at their school. Maybe this student was really fantastic at including other students around them in the classroom or around them in the soccer team. Maybe this student stood out among other students in the year or other students in your career for intelligence or for a great attitude or for kindness or for ingenuity. Looking at even those soft skills that help a student stand out and what makes them special, and putting that in the letter of recommendation can really help me get a better understanding of a student as I read through their portfolio, because those are the glimpses where I get to see another person's opinion, another person's view on the student, because the student can only talk about themselves so much. We appreciate those other perspectives always.
Another question I see is about the importance of having nationally recognized activities and awards for selective schools. And I would say that this is something that varies a lot based on location, and based on where you go to high school. I think a lot of students in Montgomery County have access to a lot of sort of nationally recognized activities, things like FBLA, things like DECA. But that doesn't mean that that is required. My high school didn't have any of those competition-based clubs. So like those are things that I learned about when I became an admissions officer. So just like there's no one thing that like you have to be doing. You do not have to have a nationally recognized activity. You do not have to have a Scholastic Gold Key. If you do have them, put them on the application. That's nice for us to see. And it's sometimes helpful for us to know about, because like these are sort of standardized things that like we understand in the context of the country. But if it's a club that's more specific to your high school, but really, really important to you, just explain what that is and explain why you're involved in it. And it doesn't have to be like this national award. We definitely admit students all the time who do not have national awards. I went to Penn and can assure you that I had no national awards when I was admitted or now.
Same for me, no national awards, and still went to Northwestern.
Um, so you can be a regular student like me and Jeff.
Also address Karen's question here. How do you rank the importance of internships, paid versus unpaid, versus college summer camps, volunteer camp counselors, year-round sports? I would say that I don't really rank these at all. And I would imagine that that's very consistent across the country of college admissions counselors and admissions officers, because the importance is, what is the student getting out of it? Are they engaging with this internship? Are they engaging with this college summer camp? Are they engaging with this camp that they might be going and being a camp counselor for and learning from this experience? Also, between paid and unpaid, usually I don't even notice. The opportunities for students are always different. It's not like students have a plethora of, oh, I could do this paid internship, or I could do this unpaid internship, or I could go do this summer camp at Northwestern. What they have on their plate is going to be different for every single person. There isn't necessarily a distinct ranking there.
Yeah, I would also say, just like again to reiterate, you do not have to do a college summer camp at the school that you're applying to. You do not have to do them at all. Many college summer camps are inordinately expensive, and that is not accessible to everyone. That would not have been accessible to me when I was in high school. And if it's something that you're doing that is free or subsidized by the college, or it's something that's like in your area, then that can be like a great exposure to that institution and to the idea of going to college. But don't feel like you have to do one of these programs that cost $5,000 a week in order to get into that school. I assure you, you do not. Another question that I see from Kate is about students being really stressed because they don't have anything to put in the honors section, and that is completely valid. And I think most students don't have any of those big sort of like national level honors. If you have something like your soccer team won like a regional championship or something, like that can go in the honors section. If you were student of the month, that can go in the honors section. If you're like a national merit semifinalist or something through the PSAT, really anything that you have achieved that has sort of that like title recognition can go in there, but also you do not have to have anything in there. I am fairly sure I didn't have anything in my awards and honors section, and I distinctly remember being stressed about this and being like, what on earth awards and honors am I supposed to have? Like, I am 18 years old. And that is totally valid. So I would say like if you have something that is either an individual accomplishment or like a team accomplishment and you like won a science fair or something like that, you can totally put that in there, but it's also completely fine if that section is blank, if your impact on your community has been more through like a job or family responsibilities or just being like a wonderful community member of your high school.
I've gotten a direct message from Raina that's asking for Northwestern in particular, what do you look for in your applications? What is Northwestern's biggest value? I can talk about this a little bit, and then maybe Zoe, if you want to talk about Penn's experience. I would say for Northwestern, again, what you are interested in comes first. You are the most important person in your application. Do not change yourself to try to fit a school. But what I can say is that Northwestern really values interdisciplinary culture, interdisciplinary education. Maybe you remember from earlier in this presentation how I mentioned the hypothetical of an engineering student who's on the robotics team, but they also do theater. We are excited at the intersection of engineering and theater for that student. Northwestern has an incredible amount of flexibility academically and organizationally between our quarter system, where you might be taking more classes or have the opportunity to take more classes than on a typical semester-based system, as well as a lot of our majors, minors, and certificates allow you to get cross credits and complete art history while you are completing computer science, while you are completing the learning and organizational change certificate. So if you have a large breadth of extracurriculars or experiences that you can draw from in a bunch of different ways and say, hey, all of these experiences are intersecting to make me a strong candidate for becoming an engineer, becoming a consultant, becoming a business person, etc. We want to know about that specifically.
I would also say like for Penn, similarly, there's not like one type of student that we're looking to admit. If we had 2,500 students a year who all were exactly the same, that would be a really boring place to go to college, and it would make my job really boring reading applications. We are looking for what you specifically bring to the table. We are looking for consistency, we're looking for leadership, but we're looking also to get to know you through your activities, and through your application as a whole. So, just like Jeff said, don't package yourself to be what you think we want you to be. Just like be whoever you are. And if that's a fit for Penn, that's a fit for Penn. And if not, then Penn is probably not the right place for you. And that is not a judgment on your specific character or accomplishments. We ultimately, our job is also to help you land at a college that's a great place for you, and where you will be supported and where you will thrive. So keep that in mind as well. We are just trying to get to know you and whatever it is that you bring to the table. Sort of to that end, there's a question about if a student is really involved and accomplished in one activity or sport and doesn't have a lot of other things, how does that affect them? This is what we would call being pointy in your activities. And that is not a bad thing. That just shows that you have really dedicated yourself to that one area, and have potentially achieved at a high level in that area, have really made an impact on the people around you in that area. And that is completely fine. It is not better or worse than being well-rounded in a bunch of different activities. So just again, if you take nothing else away from this, just let it be that like whatever it is that you are doing, either because you have to do it to support your family or because you enjoy doing it, like that is what's important to put on the application when you're thinking about choosing your activities and things like that. I would say go into that with how do I want to spend my time? How do I want to spend my 4 years of high school? Who are the people I want to hang out with? What are the activities I want to get involved in? Like, don't start off by being like, well, if I just do swim all the time, like colleges won't like that. If swim is your favorite thing in the world and that is what you want to be dedicating a ton of your time to, like do that. That it's your time, it's like your experience.
I see a question that just came in from Sophia that asks, do you have college tours on campus? What time and how can we join? You can find this for Northwestern, and you can probably find this for most colleges that you are looking at on their visitor engagement website or their admissions website. Just maybe look up like Northwestern Visitor Center or Penn Visitor Center, and there are often ways to schedule a visit for a tour. But I will also say that coming to Northwestern or going to a specific school that you are interested in isn't always available for students. There are, what's the word I'm looking for? Barriers, sorry,
Yeah.
between like, you can't just hop on a
Plane
flight and
tickets.
stop into Evanston. Like, so we completely understand that you don't need to visit Northwestern to get in here. We also have a lot of online tours, specialized tours. You can check out the Instagram. You can check out our Northwestern Admissions YouTube and see campus and maybe even connect with a current student and get an idea of what it's like out here without stepping foot, because we understand that's not available for everybody. I also see a question from Daniel of how does having English as a second language influence admissions decisions? I would say it's up to you how much you want to make that a part of your story in your application. If learning English as a second language was a really big part of your identity and formed a lot of who you are and your educational journey throughout the past 15, 18 years, tell us about that. We want to know everything that has helped shape you into who you are. But if you would rather focus on other extracurriculars or interests of yours or things that, shaped you into who you are, it's up to you. We are happy to look at it. We are also just happy to take your application how it is. It will never hurt you to have English as a second language as well.
Yeah, and that will be a question on like the sort of first page of the application is like, what languages do you speak? Which language is spoken at home? And that's sort of part of the lens through which we read your application, but we are not going to like hold you to a different standard of writing or anything like that. And since you, I assume all of you here go to school in Maryland and are primarily taught in English, you don't have to take like any English proficiency testing, regardless of what your language spoken at home is, because your high school experience has been in English. I think we got to all the questions in the chat. I'm happy to drop my email address. I don't usually do that, but I'm really happy if any of you want to reach out to me. And yes, I see somebody has their hand raised.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for all this information. It's really been very helpful. I have a rising junior.
Mhm.
They want to start with the nursing track. And I just wanted to know what extracurricular activities are they able to be allowed to do in relation to their to nursing because of
Yeah,
their age?
it's a good question. I answered this in the chat, but I'm happy to flesh it out a little
Mhm.
bit more. We totally understand that like not every hospital allows minors to volunteer or to do patient care. Like that is absolutely understandable. Some clinics and hospitals do, some don't. That's why I sort of talked about like however your student is involved in patient care and shows that they care about people around them is a totally fine thing to put on their application. So like maybe they work at a daycare, maybe they work at a summer camp, maybe they have family responsibilities taking care of an elderly relative or a younger sibling. However, they show that they care about people around them, that is what we're looking for in nursing. We are not looking for students to have like a specific hospital experience if that is not available to them, because of their age or because they don't have a license. Some students will be CNAs, some students will be EMTs. Those are also ways that you can show that you are passionate about patient care, and about medicine, but there's no one thing that you have to do. And we do understand that a lot of activities, especially in the medical field and the research, like clinical research field, are unavailable to minors, and that's totally fine.
Thank you so much for answering that. I appreciate it.
I just added the worksheet, the Excel workshop list into the chat. That is where this recording is going to be added. And if you don't have this list, you can see what other workshops are going to be added this summer. Okay. Anything else?
I'll just jump in real quick to say, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Kate, thank you so much for putting this all together.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to reach out to me, I have put my email in the chat, jeff.steniger@northwestern.edu. If you also look up Northwestern Maryland Contact, you will find my email as well as a bunch of my colleagues. We always love when students reach out via email or call. We want to answer your questions. We want to talk to you about Northwestern. We want to help you make your application as good as it can be. So at any point throughout your application process, you are having doubts or you are having questions, please reach out to us.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to stop this recording and